Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into the Big Friday Kickoff podcast. I'm your sports director, Emily Cochran. Joining me is our digital producer, Robert Ristaneo. We've made it through another week of high school football, week 7. Now we're here in week 8. We have 4 weeks left. We have a month left of the regular season.
Yeah.
We have a month left, and that is just insane to even think about.
I think end of this month, actually.
I think it is. And then we roll into the postseason. It goes 15 weeks.
Yeah.
And so once we get to the postseason, it's like all guns blazing.
Yeah, we've obviously been saying all season that it kind of feels like it's flying by, but you get to this point of the year and it actually has flown by. I mean, we're towards the end. We've got very clear playoff pictures, stuff coming down towards the end. And last week we had a fun week. We went out to St. Paul's for their matchup against Gulf Shores. Our Dacian Smith covered probably the biggest game of the night, obviously, which is why it was our game of the week, St. Michael and Jackson. And Hustle and Hal went out and saw a huge win for Cottage Hill against T.R. Miller. So we'll definitely get into all of that here in a little bit. Why don't we start up in 7A? Just kind of go down there from the top.
Yeah, you lead the way on this one. I know we just kind of want to zoom through, kind of see where everybody's standing, seeing where everyone's at, because we do have some games coming up this week that will, kind of let us know where everyone's going to be.
Yeah, so looking at 7A right now, MGM sitting at the top, 4-0 in region, 7-0 overall. They took care of Alma Bryant 42-8. No real surprise there. Fairhope with probably the biggest 7A win last week, beating Foley, which kind of really solidified their playoff spot,
I saw them post something on Twitter saying, like, the Fairhope Pirates are going to the postseason.
They very well could have clinched it. I haven't totally done the math on all of it yet. Daphne took care of Davidson 50-20. No real surprise there. And Baker beat Robertsdale 35-9, but this game was like 14-9 at half.
Yeah, I remember because I had to go shoot a game last week. I shot the Citronelle UMS game, and when I came in for the halftime show to read the scores, when the halftime score popped up, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, just kind of, because I'm getting to look at them cold, and I was just kind of in shock. I just could not believe what the score was at halftime, but obviously they came back and handled business and did what they had to do.
Yeah, but, shout out to the Golden Bears down there. Coach Jones in his first year, they're sitting at, I believe, 3-3 right now on the season. 3-4, I'm sorry.
I think they're a little scrappy.
They are scrappy, and Cub Jones, the quarterback from Beauregard, coach's son, he's been playing well in a big 7A region. So shout out to him. But it seems like our playoff teams are going to be MGM, Fairhope, Daphne, Baker.
Yeah.
And
we think MGM's probably going to, well, definitely, unless something crazy changes, they will have that number 1 spot. You would think Daphne's probably going to be number 2. And we're guessing that Baker will be number 3. That could change depending on how the Foley game goes this week.
Sure.
But Fairhope probably sitting at number 4.
Yeah, a lot of football left for Fairhope to play, obviously.
They haven't even really played their toughest opponents yet.
Right, and, our Hustle and Hal's going to be out there this week for their matchup against MGM. That is technically for first place in this region. So, Fairhope, you never know. They're hot right now, What is it, 6 in a row, I believe they've won after losing to Spanish Fort in their opener. So
they look good. I mean, especially that win over Theodore was just kind of like, wait, okay, Fairhope's a contender.
Yeah, a lot of good quarterback play in this region.
Absolutely.
With Trey Gardner, Christian Seeger, Jeremy Minhinnett. There we go. See, I finally got it.
Look at you.
And Tate Graham
it took you long enough.
Over at Baker. That kind of leads into our Big Friday kickoff game this week.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this matchup. I know that we're thinking Baker's probably going to take care of business in this one, but this is such an exciting matchup to go watch because Derek Scott, the head coach at Foley, this is his 6th season. He's going head-to-head with his identical twin brother, Eric Scott, in his first year as the head coach at Baker. I just think that this is a historic moment in our state, probably a historic. I haven't seen another story where you've seen 2 identical twin brothers going head-to-head in the same region, in the same classification. Like they're both coaches at 7A schools in Region 1, and that's just unheard of.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really great moment for both of them, a great moment for their families and their support systems for these communities. I just super happy for them. I got to hear them both talk about it because you got Derek talking at Baldwin County Media Days, and then Eric talking at Mobile County Media Days, and they both spoke about this game. It's been circled on the calendar. I've had it circled on the calendar personally, just because it really is such a special moment. These are two guys that knew that they wanted to coach from when they were little kids. It's what they went to school for. They spoke about the people that have helped them in this journey along the way, the people that have mentored them, and we're going to hopefully get to sit down with both of them on Friday and get to hear more about that and just how monumental of a night this is going to be. I'm super excited for it. I have a funny story. Whenever I had not been here long. I want to say this was like my second year. And they've had a lot of coaching turnover at Baker since I've been here. Steve Normand was the head coach when I got here.
New coach every year, I think you've been here, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I want to say Steve Normand was there the first two years. Juan Johnson, and now they have Eric Scott. So Steve Normand retires.
Right.
Goes to Mississippi. He's coaching over Mississippi now. I believe he's still coaching in Mississippi. And then they get Juan Johnson, who comes down from Hewitt-Trussville. And he has since now moved on. He's the head coach at James Clemens, I believe, is where he is now. And then they elevated Eric Scott. He was the defensive coordinator. They elevated him to head coach. See, I knew who Derek was, the head coach at Foley, because I've gone out there. I believe when I went out for the first time, I presented Player of the Week to Colton Nero at the time.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And so I know Derek. I know him well. I've gone out there. We've seen him, been around him, whatnot. My aunt is actually the art teacher at Foley High School. So, I know my way around Foley. And so I go out to Baker during the off season when they had just hired Juan Johnson. And I'm going out there to do, a season preview, an interview with him being a first-year head coach, yada, yada. And I'm kind of walking around the field, getting video of practice, and I look, and I see who I thought was Derek Scott.
Right.
But I was like, man, did Derek grow his hair out? His hair's gotten long.
Yeah.
I mean, when I tell you identical.
Yeah.
And I'm just so confused because I'm thinking, wait, why is the head coach at Foley, another 7A school, why is he out here in the summer helping with Baker?
Right.
Shouldn't he be at Foley? I was confused. So I look at one of the players and I was like, hey. I was like, psst. I was like, what is Derek Scott doing out here at Baker? I thought he's the head coach at Foley. And the kid's like, oh, no, that's his twin brother, Eric. I was like, holy moly, identical.
Yeah.
So I end up going up to Eric, and I'm like, hey, coach. I said, I'm Emily Cochran. I'm the sports director at Fox 10. Nice to meet you, whatever. I said, I thought you were your brother. I had no idea that Derek had a twin, and not that he coached within the same region.
Sure.
I say rival school. It's not a rival. You got on to me about that earlier.
Yeah.
They're not rivals,
right.
but I mean, they're opponents in 7A.
Sure.
And so, yeah, that's how I found out that Derek Scott had a twin brother.
Yeah.
And at the time, Eric was the defensive coordinator at Foley, or at Baker. So, obviously, now he's been elevated to the head coaching position at Baker. This is his first head coaching job. He has years of experience being a coach. He's coached all over. He's coached underneath Derek. And this is another thing, is their names are so close, I have to make sure that I say Derek and Eric. I mean, Eric is Derek without a D. It's just
well, and even if you know who's who, it's easy to just be like Derek or Eric. You know, I mean, so
and they're also identical. Why couldn't it be Mark and Paul? Just something easier for me to differentiate between. But both just incredible guys.
Sure.
I just want to say that. As head coaches, I mean, since I've been here, they've always been nothing but good and kind to me. They've done really well with their programs. Just really good men, great coaches. So getting to have this experience for both of them, I'm just extremely happy for them. I think that it will be an emotional night. I think they both kind of got emotional at media days during the summer. So this is the reason we're really going out to this game, is because it really is that, gives you that hometown feel. These are two guys that, built their careers from the ground up and have kind of reached the peak. This is the dream. This is what they've both wanted. So this is going to be a really special moment for them to share on opposing sidelines from one another. So yeah, definitely excited about this game.
Yeah. And like you said, we're mainly going out there for this storyline. That's kind of what we look for with Big Friday kickoff games. I didn't think that there was much football implications with this game. Baker's 3-1 in the region, Foley's 1-3. But looking at the rest of the way, if Foley were to win this game, and they would be sitting at 2-3, Baker would be sitting at 3-2. Baker still has MGM and Fairhope left, and Foley has Davidson and Alma Bryant left. So there's a world where Foley wins the next 3, and Baker could lose their next 3 if they were to lose this week. So that would put Foley in the 4th spot and knock Baker out of the playoffs.
Which is insane to think about. It's just insane to think
about.
No,
I do think Baker is probably heavily favored in this game.
I would think so.
But, you know, there's still, they need to take care of business and win, and that'll solidify them for the playoffs, I think.
Yeah. It would be really great for Eric Scott in his first year as the head coach to send these guys to the playoffs. I think they've gone to the playoffs for the last how many seasons?
I think this would be, hang on, I got them right here. Give me 2 seconds. I think this would be their last 3, if I'm remembering correctly. Or no, I'm sorry. No, this would be their 6th straight year.
Okay.
Yeah. By far longest streak in school history. You know, never won playoff games in back-to-back seasons, so that, you know, obviously they won a game last year, so. But we know how 7A is for our teams.
They basically go to the first round and get knocked out.
Yeah.
I mean, which team has gone? If I go back and look at it, I can't even. Which team's gone the farthest?
Well, McGill won it back in the day
when they were in 7A. They are in 6A
yes.
now. But as far as like the teams that are in there as a collective now,
I think MGM
is MGM.
Yeah, won a
because
couple
MGM.
games.
I mean, when Jared Hollins was the quarterback, not last season but the season before, I want to say they made it to the semifinals.
I think they did. Yeah.
So I mean, and that's also crazy to think about because you've got teams like Daphne and Fairhope that have head coaches that, I mean, Tim Carter's been at Fairhope for 11 seasons.
Right.
Kenny King has been at Daphne for 10 seasons. And then you've got Zach Golson, who goes into MGM and resurrects this Mary G. Montgomery program out in Sims. And I think they do have like the best run for 7A in the last, at least as of late.
Yes.
So, I mean, and MGM still does look really good this season. I think that they will probably hold on to that number 1 spot. I don't see that changing. But once you get to the postseason, anything can happen.
Absolutely.
It wins and losses. Once you get there, it's all about getting there.
Right.
I mean, obviously you want that number 1 or that number 2 seed because you have a better chance at like who you're going up against from, you know, Birmingham, Montgomery, Huntsville, whatever. But I don't know. I think, to me, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, like the team that surprised me the most in 7A, I would say, is probably Daphne. I think Daphne looks really good right now.
Yeah.
So Daphne stands a really good chance. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where the chips fall in 7A, Region 1, as far as where Baker's going to be sitting at the end of this and what Fairhope does.
Yeah, I was about to say, and, you know, that's the other kind of big matchup in 7A this week is MGM taking on Fairhope. You know, we mentioned them at the top. You know, Fairhope's won their last 6 games after dropping the opener. MGM is obviously undefeated on the season. You know, this is going to be a really good game. You know, you've got Trey Gardner at Fairhope playing really, really well right now. Jeremy Menhinnet with MGM. There we go. See, I'm learning finally after 8 weeks.
I know.
You know, he's been playing well, you know, after making the jump from 2A to 7A this season, really leading this team.
Which is a heck of a jump.
Heck yeah.
So
you know,
good for him.
Completing over 60% of his passes. I think Cam Smith he was the leading rusher at one point in 7A for MGM. I don't know if he's still the leader, but obviously one of the top rushers in 7A.
And Shondell Harris back in his original position on defense has just been absolutely lighting it up on that side of the ball this season. I think he was on the list last week for a potential Player of the Week candidate. Just had a really, really good game last week. So, I mean, the MGM, they're just getting it done. Seem to pick up and keep on going.
And Fairhope's got a talented quarterback with receivers that he's familiar with, and their defense and special teams have gotten a lot of points for them this season. So I think it's going to be a fun game. You know, I don't think this is a total slam dunk for MGM like you probably would have thought a couple weeks ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Pirates keep this close or even win this thing. And then, you know,
then things really shake
if
up.
Fairhope wins this game, it's really down to them and Daphne for the top spot in the region at that point.
Which, if we go back and think how we were talking at the beginning of the season and now how everything could look, there's just so many different avenues, so many potential for different paths that these teams could take, and it would just be interesting based on what we thought at the beginning of the season and how it actually does play out. So
yeah. Well, speaking of how we thought at the beginning of the season and how it turns out now, I think that changes every week in 6A. We can go ahead and move on to 6A Region 1. Right now, Saraland Theodore, top 2 teams, both undefeated in region play. Both took care of probably the bottom 2 teams in this region last week in Murphy and Baldwin County. But, the game we were out at, St. Paul's Gulf Shores, it's a heck of a game, 27-23. It was a game Gulf Shores really, really needed. But St. Paul's kind of edged them out. Yeah,
27-23 your final in that one. I think that Gulf Shores really hung in there.
Mm-hmm.
And originally, at the beginning of the week, the way I was thinking going into it, I just really didn't expect that. I kind of thought that St. Paul's was going to kind of run away with this one, and they didn't. Gulf Shores fought hard in this one. And I said it earlier in the season, I think Gulf Shores has just had a very, very difficult schedule. I think they've had a harder schedule than anyone else in 6A, and I know that they're all playing each other, and I know they're all difficult teams, and anybody could win on any given week. I get that. But if you look at Gulf Shores and how they started the season, they opened their season against Choctawhatchee. They dropped that one, a good Florida team. They kept that one close, I think. And then they play against MGM, the number 1 team in 7A Region 1. That final was 22-19. I mean, they have been through the gauntlet compared to these other teams in 6A. Because the other teams in 6A, I mean, you're playing each other.
Right.
I mean, look at Saraland, their non-region opponent was Jackson in week 1.
Sure.
A 4A team. Don't get me wrong, the reigning 4A state champion.
And a close game.
Yeah, it was. And exactly, it was. And a close game when Jackson didn't even have E.J. Crowell.
Sure.
So I look back to that, and I'm like, man, Gulf Shores really, I've said it, they had a very, very difficult schedule. And I think they've been tested a little more than any other team. They just can't finish. They can't get the win in these big games that they really, really need. And I think eventually it is going to click. I think they're a younger team. I think since they've made the jump to 6A, growing pains, obviously. But, I mean, I don't want to count them out from making it to the postseason because I think that they absolutely could, especially because Spanish Fort is having a down year compared to what we've seen Spanish Fort typically look like.
Yeah, and that's, St. Paul's plays Saraland this week. That's obviously going to be a big one. But, looking at it right now, Spanish Fort is sitting at the 4th seed currently in this region at 3-2. Gulf Shores is sitting there at 2-2. So, they play this week. Spanish Fort travels to Gulf Shores to play. If Gulf Shores wins that, they're going to jump Spanish Fort for that 4 spot with Spanish Fort going into a bye. And Gulf Shores still has Murphy and Baldwin County on their region schedule.
Which are likely going to be wins.
Yeah. I mean, now, they do play Theodore next week, but Spanish Fort has a bye, and then McGill, and then St. Paul's. So you'd rather have Gulf Shores schedule the rest of the way of having to play Theodore, Murphy, and Baldwin County as opposed to McGill and St. Paul's like Spanish Fort has. So that 4th spot's still up in the air. I think we're pretty clear with our top 3 of Saraland, Theodore, St. Paul's, though.
I would say so, yes. And I think another one that kind of surprised, I say surprised. I just kind of thought that St. Paul's was going to be number 2, Theodore would be number 3. Mm-hmm. But Theodore they've been looking good. Their loss to Fairhope made me wonder and question, but then St. Paul's loses to Theodore, so it's just like
Theodore owns that tiebreaker. So like worst case scenario, they tie and Theodore would still get that bump.
So it's just crazy how as the season goes on, how much changes and teams get hot and teams drop off. It's just so many different things happen. But I think we can kind of predict who we think 1, 2, 3, and 4 in 6A would be.
Yeah,
for the most part.
At least 1 through 3, and then I think it's between Spanish Fort and Gulf Shores for the 4th spot. Yeah. And we'll know this week kind of where that one's going to shake out.
Exactly.
I think. But Saraland, they got St. Paul's this week, and they still got Theodore on their schedule too. So.
And that's another thing. I don't know if you remember, but the St. Paul Saraland game last year was very close.
And that was a Jamison Roberts game. That was one of the games that KJ Lacey didn't play, I believe.
I think so. I think it was. And it was like a 1-score game.
Yeah.
Like, and also I feel like Saraland collectively, like on paper, was probably better last year, and St. Paul's was. To me, St. Paul's looks better this year, in my opinion. Just like watching them and like how many points they've been putting up, and
they can really throw the ball, which I don't think they could last year.
No,
as well.
I mean Hayden Fincher at quarterback. I mean, just a sophomore, but has been absolutely getting it done, leading this offense. Just looks really, really good.
Yep.
And we actually got to talk with him last week. He joined the set, and we got to talk to him, Tank, and his stepbrother Parker Davis, who's at wide receiver, and just those guys just carry a lot of confidence.
Sure.
Like they feel confident going into these games each week, and I think that offense feels confident behind Hayden Fincher. So I think that's an element this year that they have that they did not have last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I will continue to laugh at Ham Barnett in the offseason telling you he didn't understand why people thought they would be good. And here they are at 5-1, 3-1 in the region.
I mean, they are young. Like, if you look at them on paper, they are young.
They are, but they also brought a lot back from last year's team.
Yes, but they also had a lot of guys that were starting that had never played a varsity game before.
Right.
And to me, both can be true.
Sure, absolutely.
So, I think that also sometimes I know these coaches, they give me the coach speak and they say what they got to say, and that's fine. I also think it was hilarious that during our interview, this is how this works. I'm out there doing an interview with the coach, and I've already got my questions teed up. I know what I'm going to ask. I've prepared for it. I'm good to go. I have a headphone in my ear, and Robert can
I know where this is going.
Robert can speak to me during the show. Like, it's basically like we're on the phone.
Right.
And in the middle of the interview, I'm getting ready to he usually talks to me while Ham is speaking, so that way I can hear him and he doesn't talk over me when I'm talking. And Robert says, ask Ham if Ham's his real name. And it threw me off so badly.
Well, I was in there with another one of our producers, Nate, and he threw it out there, and I was like, that's actually a great question.
I was like, oh my God. Like, the question just threw me for a loop. I'm used to, like, Robert being like, ask him about Tank or Tank Jones, or ask him about a specific player or a stat or a matchup, like, more football-related questions. Right. So it doesn't throw me. But when he said in my ear, ask him if Ham's his real name, I was like, it threw me so badly that I was like, holy crap, what is my next question? Am I about to have to ask this man if Ham is his real name? And so we get done with the interview, and we're not live anymore, and I look at Ham, and I'm like, Coach, I'm so sorry. If you saw me look at you crazy, it's because my producer wanted me to ask if Ham was your real name. And he laughed, and he was like, it is. It's Hamilton.
Yes,
so
yes.
Very nice name.
We like Ham Barnett. He's always been one of the coolest ones to you, and
yes, I love Ham Barnett. Great guy, great coach.
Very accessible to us. So.
Yes, and he's always been super great about coming in and doing interviews with us for Big Friday Kickoff. And I was gonna go out to practice last week and get some practice footage. And so I text him. I'm like, hey, Coach, like, what time do y'all practice tomorrow? This was last Thursday. I text him Wednesday, trying to go out there Thursday. And typically I'm used to, like, anytime between, like, 2:30 and 4:30. Like, that's okay. That's, like, in my window of, like, I can work with that. He texts me back, and he's like, yeah, we practice at 6:15 in the morning. I didn't get off work that night until, like, midnight. Right. So I was like, all right, Coach, I'm going to plan to be there, but if you don't see me, don't be concerned.
Yes.
And I definitely did not make that. That was just not happening. I knew absolutely not, especially when I'm coming in on a Thursday working from like 12 to 11, and then the next day I work from 12 to midnight. I was just like, yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, no.
I need some form of sleep.
Yes. So, yeah, that will be the big matchup this week in 6A is St. Paul's at Saraland. Theodore's on a bye this week. They're the only other undefeated team in that region.
Mm-hmm. That Saraland Theodore game is going to be so good.
Yeah, and I'm wondering. Let's say St. Paul's, and I think that they're probably decent underdogs in this game. I would think, just because it's at Saraland and their home win streak is It's
absurd.
I've lost track. I used to know it last season, and it's just they keep winning at home. If St. Paul's were to win, that would put them at 4-1, Saraland at 5-1, and Theodore would take that top spot in the region. Mm-hmm. But, assuming St. Paul's loses, which I think we would probably both pick Sarah Lane in this game, I do think it's going to be close.
I do. I don't know. Sometimes that's the thing. Sometimes games go exactly how I predict, or they go the complete opposite. There's absolutely no in between.
Yes. Then, St. Paul's would kind of be fighting with Spanish Fort. They play the last week of the regular season. That would kind of decide who's third and who's fourth in this region.
Yeah.
Because they're both going to be sitting at St. Paul's will drop to 3-2 in the region if they lost. Spanish Fort, depending on what happens with Gulf Shores this week, will either be 4-2 or 3-3. Mm-hmm. So that tiebreaker at the final week of the season is going to be pretty crucial for both these teams.
That's the thing. 6A could get spicy too.
Yeah, it could.
Just like going back to thinking about what we thought at the beginning of the season to now, like so many things have changed. Yeah. So isn't it so much fun?
It continues to move around. It's almost not even worth, diving into it.
We talk about it. We make predictions. We talk about what we think we know because we think we know it, and it's just it's always fun to chat about that.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
What does it hurt?
Right. Let's go ahead and move on down to 5A because I think one of the more I think 5A and 1A this week had two of the bigger playoff picture shifting games.
Yeah.
Starting at the top, Viger Williamson, they continue to just be on a collision course for each other. They both took care of Faith in Alberta.
Substantially.
Yeah, which we knew that was going to happen. I'm just ready for these two teams to play each other. Like that's kind of where I'm at with 5A.
I'm ready to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's going to be the best way to gauge where are they at.
Right. We're kind of in a Jackson-St. Michael situation last week with these two where it's like
pretty much
we know they're the top two teams, not only in Region 1, they're the top two teams in their classifications. Mm-hmm. They play soon, right? They play what? I think
Is it next week? Or is it the week after next?
It is. Let me pull that up.
I think it's next week. Because isn't that going to, that's probably that is probably the candidate for Player of the Week.
Or Game of the Week.
Did I say Player of the Week?
Yes.
Sorry, I got Player of the Week on the mind. I did that today.
Very easily could have a Player of the Week from that game, too.
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
we try and do that,
I mean, Sammy Dunn's already been one of our Player of the Week candidates. We know that Williamson has if not the best defense in 4A, they have one of the best defenses in the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
Across any classification.
And Alvin Dinkins has been awesome this year for them.
I mean, there's a ton of star power on both rosters, so that's definitely going to be a game to absolutely look forward to. But Williamson's got a big one this week, I think. I mean, I don't think they should look over it. I don't think it should be treated lightly. I mean, they take on UMS Wright.
Yeah, I mean, UMS Wright, they're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, to me, the biggest win from last week was LaFleur over BC Rain. I think
LaFleur's been like a sleeper, like a sneaky, we didn't know.
Yes.
I did not expect that whatsoever.
No.
I just didn't. It just goes to show that, their head coach, Michael Perry, came from Viger.
Right.
And he's taking that success at Viger and he's implementing it to what they're doing over in the snake pit.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's just good for LaFleur,
yes.
honestly. Good for LaFleur. I mean, that's kind of been another surprise this season.
So that bumps LaFleur up to the 4 seed. They're sitting at 2-2 in the region.
Rattlers going to the postseason.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, if you think about it, when we went out there for Big Friday Kickoff, our first year when it was still high school game day, they had not won a game in 2 seasons?
Yeah.
And they won that night.
Yeah.
And to see the growth, they've just kind of transformed. This season, that's not your grandpa's LaFleur.
No, I know.
You know what I'm saying? So, that's just awesome. Well done for the Rattlers and for Michael Perry.
And most importantly, we keep talking about these tiebreakers, but they become so important as everyone plays each other. That gives them a tiebreaker over BC Rain. And BC Rain and Citronelle, they play this week. They're both 1-3 in this region. LaFleur sitting at 2-2. Citronelle has lost 4 in a row.
Yeah, they're struggling.
They end their region play with BC Rain this week, LaFleur, Alberta. So they could win their last 3, But that LaFleur game in 2 weeks
I was
will
about to say, yeah.
ultimately determine what's going to happen with that 4 seed. If Citronelle can win this week, they will still be in contention for that.
Yeah, so definitely that's going to be a 5A game to keep an eye on.
Yes, if they win this week.
I don't. It all depends. Like, that's the thing. We're getting into a point where it's like a week-by-week basis.
Yes.
Like, things change weekly. Like, we couldn't even decide game of the week for this week
Right.
until we saw what happened last week. And typically, we like to make the schedule ahead of time. You can't do that anymore.
Yes.
Because crazy things are happening. There's shakeups and mix-ups and upsets and just stuff you don't expect to happen happens.
Yes.
And it's just... It makes scheduling where we're going and who's doing what.
Right.
Which, honestly, a great problem to have.
Yep.
It's more interesting. It makes the season more fun. I love when there's some chaos.
Yep. LaFleur, they'll end the season with Alberta, Citronelle, Williamson, and then they close the year with Foley in a non-region game. They should take care of business against Alberta this week. Mm-hmm. And then, like we said, that Citronelle game is going to be crucial because they are not going to beat Williamson more than likely. I guess never say never, but I just know there's no world where I would pick them or even give them a shot in that game.
Yeah,
you know.
no. I mean, Williamson is putting 100 points up on teams.
Yeah,
like, come on.
Yeah, it's hard. You know?
Just like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Right. Yeah. And so, like you were talking about, as far as that 3 spot goes, UMass is sitting pretty comfortably there. They've got Williamson this week, and then they close with Alberta and Faith. So, don't really see a world where they're not that 3 spot. You know, I think they're gonna finish probably 4-2 in region play.
And also, didn't UMS right last year? Like they squeaked in as the 4 seed, and then they ended up beating the number 1 team. Was that last season?
Yes.
So like UMS is one of those teams. Like you just let them get to the postseason, and I feel like 5A is different than
Right.
like other. It's not like 7A. Like 5A, like teams down here, we are the 7A
Right.
down here. Like, we're the ones that, like, up there, they're talking about, like, oh, you don't want to go against a 5A team because, I mean, anything. Like, look at them. You send a team like UMS to the postseason as the number 4 seed, they go up against the number 1 team, and they could knock you out.
Yep.
Because the talent level and just, like, it's just different down here.
Yeah.
It really is. So, like, you let UMS get in, and that's a team that I would definitely keep an eye on.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to play them.
I was out there this past week. I shot that game. And I'm on the sideline shooting, and they've got like the way it leads up to the field, like there's like a red, they paint the sideline red, and I'm standing in the red, which maybe I probably shouldn't have been.
Right.
And from behind me, I hear, "Hey, you think you can get off the red?" And I whip my head around, and it's Terry Curtis giving me a straight face look. And that's the thing about Terry is sometimes I feel like he's not kidding. Or he's absolutely joking.
Right.
But I don't, in this moment, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I turn around and I just look and I kind of like tiptoe back and I was like, "I'm sorry, coach." And he was like, "Girl, come here." He started laughing. He was just kidding. But in that moment, I was like, holy crap, I'm in trouble. But I love going out there. It's always so much fun going out there. UMS is just they give you that vibe of like legacy and tradition.
Right.
Like you feel that every time you go out there, and that's another reason why I think let them get into the postseason. They're a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
So definitely gonna have to. UMS and the Bulldogs are a team that we're gonna have to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and so like we said, that kind of wraps up 5A, much like the other regions. A lot of moving parts. Pretty clear picture at the top, though. I think we know generally who it's going to be, and we're just kind of waiting to see how the order is going to shake out. Let's move on to 4A, where I think the biggest game in Region 1 took place last week.
I think it was one of the biggest games across all classifications,
Yeah.
like down here in Region 1. Like
Absolutely.
This was a massive, massive game. St. Michael, the number 2 team, well, not the number 2 team anymore, but they were the number 2 team
Yep.
going into this, going head-to-head with the number 1 reigning 4A state champion, Jackson Aggies. And I said it, and I'm glad, like I'm proud of myself
Yeah.
for my take, is like I kept saying if there was any year to do it, it was going to be this year for St. Michael to get the chance to beat Jackson
Yep.
because of the injuries that Jackson has faced on the offensive line, and then with the player transferring out, and then also they have a wide receiver that is out right now. So, like, if there was just any chance for this St. Michael offense to keep up with this Jackson offense, I think this was going to be the year, and they absolutely did it. Because I went out and shot that game at UMS Wright, I come in for our halftime show, and I don't get to look at the scores. Like
right.
we go in the room and we're going live, and like I'm getting to see these scores live in real time. So my reaction is like cold reaction.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting to see this with all of you. And the very first score that I saw, of course, is St. Michael Jackson, and it was what, 28-7?
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, holy crap, I was right.
Yes.
Like that's just a really good feeling to like I feel like I had all this faith in St. Michael and I thought they could do it and they did it.
Yeah.
But Jackson scored 19 unanswered points in the second, at one point. It was 19 unanswered.
Yep.
And I was like, oh no, maybe I spoke too soon.
Yeah.
But Jackson is one of those teams that things might be a little questionable in the first half. We saw it with the Mobile Christian game.
Yep.
But I mean, they always come roaring back. I mean, E.J. Crowell had over 300 rushing yards
Yep.
on offense. I mean, that in itself is insane. But in the end, St. Michael got it done. Our player of the week came out of this one. Their quarterback, Gunnar Rivers, son
Yep.
of head coach Phillip Rivers, former NFL great quarterback. I think he went 25 of 38 passing, 274 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's just off the dome. I'm trying to remember my stats from this week. Normally you're the stat guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was our player of the week. We got to go out there and present that award to him. And I told the team beforehand, I wish that we had a team of the week award. I told him, I said, guys, like this was just such a hard choice because Noah Moss had such a good game and Tucker Tomlinson and like
Yep.
all those guys, all their weapons on offense just played so well. Their defense played well. And just this is one of those wins for your program where you take a look back and you're like, this is one of those ones that we will always remember. And Phillip Rivers said that when I spoke to him when we went out there to present the award. And typically he's a very like all business guy, like
Sure.
nice as can be, like, but he's definitely like he wants us to come present the award, do our thing, and he wants to get back to work,
Yep.
as any head coach would be. But this week in particular, like he actually hung around and we talked about this game, and you could tell that he was still fired up from that win, and like the guys were still fired up from that win. I mean, that's an exciting moment to take out the reigning 4A state champion, the only team that you've lost to the past 2 seasons,
Yep.
besides obviously once you get to, Jackson, who knocked them out of the postseason last year. So that's a team that's beat you 2 years in a row, the only team you've lost to, and you come back and you slay the dragon.
Yeah.
And I think that is just like a really cool thing. And I don't want to take anything away from Jackson. They've got a ton of talent. I definitely think they'll go to the postseason and have a heck of a run. And these two teams will likely meet again, just like they did last year.
Yeah.
And anything can happen, like I said, when you get to the postseason. But this is a very, very big win for the St. Michael Cardinals football program, for Phillip Rivers, for this team. I mean, it's just, I just think it's incredible.
Yeah, and you know, E.J. Crowell, 20 carries for 336 yards. I mean, nobody has stopped him all year, so you can't.
Even with a tweaked ankle
against
Mobile Christian, he's
unstoppable. You can't really gauge your defense on that. I will say, I mean, Landon threw 3 picks in this game. I'd be curious to know what.
And Shane Beamer was there.
I know.
Like,
I'd be curious
South
to
Carolina's
know,
head football coach, where he's committed.
Yeah, what the defense did to him in this game, and they're going to learn from it. They're watching tape this week, obviously, to see how this one played out. Jackson will be heard from again, and I think
100%.
these two teams will play again, and I think that game's going to be a toss-up.
Yeah. Do not count Jackson out. They're not going away quietly.
Right.
Like, they're just probably going to be that number 2 team. I mean, this makes it worse. If St. Michael beats Mobile Christian this week,
Yep.
they secure the number 1 spot.
Right.
Jackson will have that number 2 spot, and then we'll have to see how things shake out with W.S. Neal, Mobile Christian, that whole.
Yeah, Jackson, they've got Orange Beach Thursday this week, so they are playing on a short week. Orange Beach is technically still in the playoff hunt. They're 2-1 in region, tied with W.S. Neal, Jackson, and Mobile Christian.
Mm-hmm.
They've already lost to W.S. Neal. They've got Jackson this week. They still have Mobile Christian. They still have St. Michael. So pretty tough sledding.
It is not easy for them.
Yeah, W.S. Neal, they've already played St. Michael. I think they still have to play Jackson, if I remember right. Yeah, they've got Escambia County this week, and then Jackson and Mobile Christian. And Mobile Christian has St. Michael, Orange Beach, W.S. Neal. So some movement right there at 3 and 4. I think assuming Jackson wins out the rest of the way, which they should, they'll hold that number 2 spot. But technically, at the moment, they still got to beat Orange Beach and W.S. Neal to claim that, and
which I think they can do. I think that coming off a loss like this, they're going to come back with a vengeance. I would not want to play Jackson after losing last week.
Right.
What was the final in that one? 49-39? I mean, that 2 high-power offenses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you? I mean, I know y'all saw it. The video's all over the place. E.J. Crowell just jumping over a defender, like treating the kid like a hurdle. That is insane. When I talked to Phillip Rivers, he said that he hasn't seen a player like that in a long time.
He's unbelievable, and his numbers get crazier every week. Dacian has covered a handful of their games. It seems like every week he comes out, he's like, I think he's gotten better. Like,
that is a grown man. I think he's got to be 17 years old. He could be 18 now. I'm not sure, but that boy is playing like a grown man. He is going to do some absolute damage when he gets to Alabama. I mean, he is definitely someone to keep an eye on. I did talk with Gunnar Rivers and Phillip Rivers. Is there anything else you want to wrap up on this game before we toss? I've got some sound bites I would like for them to hear.
Nothing more on this game. Just briefly before we get out of this, like I said, you got 4 teams sitting at 2-1 in this region, with St. Michael sitting at 4-0. I think if you had to pick it right now, kind of our prediction for the last couple weeks of St. Michael, Jackson, and then Mobile Christian, W.S. Neal in some order is probably what we're looking at. But Orange Beach technically still in contention. They just have to play everybody still. So going to be an uphill battle for them. But 4A, the picture looks pretty clear, just the order, like we say about most regions right now. So
yeah, absolutely. So like I said, St. Michael does host Mobile Christian this week. I know that they're going to have there's some stuff going on at St. Michael this week. There's going to be some form of a tailgate. Our chief photographer, Randy Lowe, his kids go to St. Michael, and I know he's going to be out there for that game. So they got some cool stuff going on out there at the stadium before the game. But I did get to catch up with head coach Phillip Rivers, his son, Gunnar Rivers, who's the 4-star junior quarterback, our player of the week, absolutely getting it done. We talked a little bit about the performance from this past week and what a win against Jackson means to this team. And we also talked about looking ahead to next week. They're not taking Mobile Christian lightly. So let's hear from both of them. It's a nice little snippet from that interview.
I mean, it's awesome. We actually thought, the whole team thought we were going to win. We were going in. We had two good weeks of preparation, and we just knew, the mentality of our guys, I just knew we were going to get it done.
I told them all last week to make sure they enjoyed number 2 St. Michael going to number 1 Jackson, and not to miss that. Like, those are the games you talk about when you're grown, you tell stories about. So I didn't downplay the magnitude of last week's game. And then I've told them to enjoy this, enjoy you coming out, to celebrate our guys. And we've had some other guys getting honored as well, and the team getting honored. And so I go, hey, that comes with winning, so you can't look down on those things. That's great. But we also, guys, we got a big one on Friday. So I think they know that. We have great respect for Mobile Christian in that program. They've won a lot of football games. They've won state championships. They had that Jackson team with a 1-score game late into the third quarter, and it's at our place, and Region 1 championship really on the line. We win this game tomorrow night, we win Region 1. So I think our guys know it's a big deal, and that comes with it, right? When you win and you knock off number 1, that's just going to, each week it's going to, eyes are going to be on our guys, and I think that they're a mature enough group to be ready to go again Friday night.
We got to stay level-headed, but it's still a big game. If we win, we lock the region, so it's still going to be a big game. We're excited.
Alrighty, really cool to hear from Phillip Rivers and Gunnar Rivers. One thing I will say about Gunnar, and Coach said it during the Player of the Week interview, Gunnar is just such a laid-back, chill, humble kid. Yep. And you would think, at least just like, I don't know, to me, like from the outside looking in, you would think that a kid that's coming in, not even the fact that he's Phillip Rivers.
There's our weekly mic hit right there.
Yeah, I'm a mic slapper. I've been doing it, like, I actually have kind of dinked it a couple times, and I'm just trying to not say anything.
Right.
Hopefully, I don't know if y'all hear it or not, but I'm so sorry. Me and this mic are enemies. But yeah, just, you would think, and it has, like I said, nothing to do with the fact that Phillip Rivers is Phillip Rivers, but being the coach's son. And the role that comes with being the coach's son, because so many kids could be like, oh, well, he's just getting the starting spot because his dad's the coach
right.
or whatever. But that is not the case whatsoever. I mean, obviously he's got an extremely talented dad who, like, is a heck of a coach, made
Sure.
the transition from being an NFL quarterback to being a high school football coach, and has done it beautifully, in my opinion.
Yep.
Really grown this program. They're having they're coming off a historic win for their program, but Gunnar has never been the kid that's just like, okay, well, yeah, I got the job because my dad's
Sure.
the coach.
Yep.
That is not the case with him whatsoever. I mean, he's a 4-star, extremely talented. I know that his recruitment is starting to pick up, and it's just, he does so well with his team, and these guys have really embraced him. I think that they know, like, no, he's not the starter because his dad is the coach. Like, he's got the talent, and
Yes.
he's come in and puts in the work every single week. He's proving it with the numbers, but he's also not one of those kids that is like, oh, pick me, look at me. He is so humble,
right,
and is so quick to give credit to his team, and I think that is just really cool to see, especially when you're the son of, also, like, your dad is Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
Like, you talking to Gunnar, you would never think otherwise. You would think he's a regular kid from down here in Alabama, and in all aspects he is. He's just a regular, down-to-earth, really good kid, extremely talented. So I'm very, very happy to see this program get this win. So it was really cool to talk to both of them, and like I said, you could tell that Phillip is still absolutely fired up from this matchup for him to hang around and talk with us. So we are really, really appreciate that. Really happy for this team.
Yeah, and they're the favorite. They're the number one team in 4A now. So we'll see how it plays out. Let's quickly jump down to 3A, where I think the second biggest game of the week, Cottage Hill TR Miller, happened.
Yes, this past week.
Past week, I should say. Cottage Hill, that's kind of a program-defining win that they got,
Oh, that's massive.
Yeah.
For them to get I think that's the first time they've ever beat TR Miller in program history. I mean, that is huge.
Yes. Caleb Metzner, real quick, just has been on an absolute tear. Picked up 4 sacks this week on defense. He also caught 5 passes for 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ran the ball 5 times for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's been one of the best players in 3A. We knew he would be. He was one of the big returning guys for them. Tootle brothers continue to do their thing. Shamar Tootle, 14-18, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns. This kid is a really, really talented quarterback and just continues to build on what he did last year. And their defense, I mean, they held TR Miller to 2 yards a carry. TR Miller threw 3 interceptions between their 2 quarterbacks. This Cottage Hill team is tough right now.
Yeah. I mean, this is just, like, this program has transformed in the last 3 seasons since Carvel Jones has been there. I think this is probably the biggest jump that they've made in the 3 years. And I mean, this going into this series, they're 11-2 with Bayside Academy for this week's game, and I think that, like, you're coming off of, you just beat a team that you have never beat before. You're about to go in against a team that you've only beaten twice in all the times that you've met. Cottage Hill is just making leaps and bounds, and they're doing it quickly, and they look very, very good. And Carvel Jones said, these guys have bought in. They've absolutely bought in. They see the vision, and clearly, like, whatever they're doing, it is working.
Yeah.
It is 100% working. So really cool to see the Warriors have the success they're having this season.
Yeah, and real quick, just one last shout out to Caleb Metzner. 15 sacks on the season. He's number 1 in Alabama, number 1 in 3A. He's got 448 receiving yards. That puts him 15th in all of 3A, and he's got 59 total tackles, also good for 15th in all of 3A. Seventh
Yeah, he's
most
doing
touchdown.
it on both sides of the ball. Like,
Yes,
continue.
yes. Seventh most touchdowns in 3A. Fifth, 45th in total yards in 3A. But he's a defensive end. You know what I mean? So
That's the thing. We don't really get to talk about everything that he does on defense very much, because when we're thinking about highlights, like,
we're focused on offense.
yeah, we are focused on offense, and he is a name that I'm saying every single week when I'm reading the highlights, or whether it's Hal or Dacian or whoever, if we're covering Cottage Hill that week. Like, that is a name that we're saying, obviously outside of the Tootle brothers and a couple other guys, but he's a name that has continuously come up on offense. But I think that it's great that shining a light on what he does on defense, because this boy absolutely gets it done on both sides of the ball, no question.
So this week, Cottage Hill, they're following it up with another massive matchup, bigger than last week, taking on Bayside, who they're tied with right now in the region, both sitting at 3-0.
This is for the number 1 spot.
Yeah, and Bayside just absolutely took care of Hillcrest Evergreen last week, 56-6, really putting them down to, like, they have to beat Flomaton in a couple weeks, otherwise the playoff matchup is set. But yeah, Bayside Cottage Hill this week, that's going to be a huge 3A Region 1 matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Bayside, I don't know if you said this already, but Bayside's number 8 in Class 3A in the state. Cottage Hill's number 10. I mean, this is a ranked matchup. Like,
I think, did they update that? Hang on. I thought the poll that came out today.
Okay, well, and that might be updated. This was from yesterday. This is from last night when I looked before.
So Cottage Hill is actually 7th. Bayside's at 8. TR Miller's at 10. So
okay, so that's been updated.
Yes.
So dang, making some jumps.
Yes.
Look at them. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, they're both undefeated going into this one. One team's going to get their first loss of the season. This is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
I mean, the Admirals have won 5 straight. I mean, they, like you've said it. Both of these teams are very, very hot right now. I think these are two maybe of the hottest teams in the state across all classifications. And
it's going to be fun because it's a battle of 2 sophomore quarterbacks in Davis Barnett and Shamar Tootle. And
Davis Barnett's been our player of the week. Like, we know that he can get it done, and we're talking about the Tootle brothers every single week. Shamar absolutely can sling it. So
yeah, Davis is 3rd in 3A in passing yards, and Shamar's 5th. So 2 really young, talented sophomore quarterbacks leading their teams, and so that'll be those 2 are mostly locked into the playoffs right now. It seems like. Bayside still has to play TR Miller, I believe, but I think they should be able to take care of that one fairly easily. So
I think the only thing that Bayside, which I know they have a good defense, but with Shamar, he's a dual threat. Like, he can throw it, he can run it. Like, he's got not only is he got 1,336 yards and 13 touchdowns. That's just passing. He's also rushed for 344 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yes.
So he can get it done with his arm. He can get it done with his legs, and that's something that this Bayside defense is going to have to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah,
but,
it'll be exciting to see these two young quarterbacks go at it. You know, TR Miller, obviously, with the loss to Cottage Hill, that kind of puts them. That kind of slides them into that 3 spot. They still have to play Bayside, second to last week of the season. I don't know if I think they're still probably the 3rd best team in this region. They're at 5-2 overall. Flomaton in 4th place, 5-2 overall, 2-2 in region. But they play Hillcrest Evergreen in a couple weeks, and if Hillcrest Evergreen beats them, that they could sneak into a playoff spot because Flomaton's on a bye this week, but then they come back, host Hillcrest, and then at Cottage Hill. And if Hillcrest were to beat them, they close with Escambia County, and they play Monroe County this week, which are the 2 bottom teams in this region. Mm-hmm. You could have a 2-5 team right now get hot and sneak into the playoffs at 5-5, even though Flomaton is 5-2 right now. So little bit of drama right there. We'll know here in a couple weeks when Flomaton and Hillcrest Evergreen play each other. But Cottage Hill, Bayside, and TR Miller 3rd. It's a little bit like 5A is with Williamson, Viger, and UMS, where it's the top 2 are pretty clear, 3rd team's pretty clear. How that 4th spot shakes out will be kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, the slate of games that we have this week is just so good. And I think a lot of things are going to be decided once we see who does what this week.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Jumping down to, I think, has been one of the weirdest regions this year, down in 2A.
Ain't that the truth?
It just, every time I look at it, I'm like, wait, who's in first place? What happened? Washington County beat Bayshore this week. They're sitting undefeated in region play. Clark County was on a bye. They're also undefeated in region play in second place. They play each other in a couple weeks. That obviously will be for the top spot in that region. Clark County has Chickasaw this week. JU Blackshear, Washington County play this week. That's probably the biggest game in this region.
I would say so, yeah.
You know, JU Blackshear looks pretty slotted into a playoff spot. I think they're one of the better teams in 2A, you know, maybe not top 10, but I know they receive votes every week. So they go at Washington County. That'll determine a lot down here.
And they handled business last week. What was the final score in that game?
51-16 against St. Luke's.
And I think at halftime it was close.
It was.
And they came back and absolutely like you said.
16-16, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, it was tied at halftime because I remember that was one of the scores I looked at and I was like, wait a minute.
Yep.
Uh-oh. And then when I remember being on the set to do the show at 10 and seeing that final score on the scoreboard and being like, wait a minute.
Yep.
Like, crazy.
Which is funny because St. Luke's is more than likely going to be the 4th seed in 2A. So that's a playoff team that you just beat 51-16 that's in your region. So yeah, St. Luke's, they're sitting at 2-2 in the 4th spot in region 1 class 2A. They closed the year with Clark County and Chickasaw. I think if you remember last year, the final playoff spot came down to that St. Luke's Chickasaw game at the end of the season. I think that'll probably be the same case. Chickasaw's got Clark County, Bayshore, and St. Luke's, so I think they will probably have the same record going into that.
Is Chickasaw on the road the rest of the season? Well, technically they're not playing any of their home games at home.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with their home stadium.
It's under construction right now. So like
Now, did they play at Satsuma's high school last week?
Yes, they play at Satsuma.
Okay, they close against Satsuma, and it's supposed to be a home game, so I'm guessing
they'll probably just play that at Satsuma, I would think.
Right.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean,
I guess we'll have to find out, but I know like that's what they did. And whenever they played Washington County, instead of playing it at Chickasaw, they moved it to Washington County and played them on the road.
Yeah, and so depending on what they do this week with the Clark County game, which they're supposed to be hosting, they could play the rest of their schedule on the road because they go at Bayshore in 2 weeks and then at St. Luke's and then Satsuma, which will be a home game for Satsuma.
Yeah. They don't have that home field advantage this year.
No, it's just tough. You know, you get that down there in region play. So Chickasaw outside, you know, sitting on the outside looking in, but I think ultimately that'll be St. Luke's spot to. And
if they host, if they did by some way make it to the playoffs, how would that work? How would they host?
I don't know. I don't think they would.
So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
That's definitely something you would got to keep a look at.
Yeah. Another one I mentioned earlier, 2 games that were kind of the biggest matchup, kind of playoff picture defining games last week. I mentioned one of them down in 1A. McIntosh beat Millery 26-6. They beat Sweetwater a couple weeks ago. Braden Dixon, the Leroy transfer. They've got Jaden Reeser, who was a Millery transfer. They've got a couple kids who transferred in from Mary G. Montgomery. They have completely flipped this program in one season, and I think McIntosh is on their way to the playoffs. For the first time since, I had this written down, since 2012. And yeah, I think 1A is Leroy, Southern Choctaw, Millery, McIntosh. Leroy, Southern Choctaw, both top 10, both undefeated, both play this week. We'll know a lot about where.
That's going to be such a good game.
Yeah, how those two sit going in. Millery, I mean, McIntosh has the tiebreaker against them, and I think Millery still has to play Leroy. So McIntosh looks like they're in a good spot to win out, and, I think they may be the 3 seed, which is shocking because I kind of thought this was Leroy and Millery's region to lose, and Southern Choctaw did this last year, and they've kind of built on it this year, and they're undefeated down there as well. So, yeah, Leroy, Southern Choctaw, Millery, McIntosh. That was not who I had going into the season.
Not on your bingo card.
No, not with Sweetwater missing the playoffs. I mean, that's crazy. But
yeah. Well.
So yeah, that does it for Region 1. I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to hit?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna stay away from college football this week. I'm a little nervous.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to cover a game this week because I've got a wedding in Destin. 2 of my college friends are getting married this weekend.
Congratulations.
So, yes, congrats to them. Congrats to my really good friend David Meadows. We're huge Ole Miss fans, and I'm just a little nervous about this week for Ole Miss because I know I know it's Washington State, but we're coming off such a high from that win over LSU and then a bye week. So, like, I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to speak too much about it just because I think we will handle business, but it's one of those games where it's like, okay, what are you made of?
Yeah.
You're the number 4 team in the country now. What are you made of?
Yep.
And as far as I know, Austin Simmons is still, not starting. It's Trinidad Chambliss, and
Sure.
I'm nervy. It's nervy when you're an Ole Miss fan and your team's the number 4 team in the country. That just that's not like normal territory for me to be in. So I'm not going to touch too much on that. I think Auburn plays Georgia this week and Alabama plays Missouri.
Yep.
Alabama's on the road. Auburn's at home.
Yep.
Typically I would be up in Auburn covering that game, but not this weekend because I have a wedding. And shout out to my friends for getting married during football season.
Yep, come on.
Will never thank God that will never be a problem for me. I would never get married during football season, which I think makes my dad and uncles and the rest of my family incredibly happy.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, because I'll be doing this. This is what I'll be doing.
That's right.
But what about Kentucky this week?
Kentucky basketball had their pro days this week.
Oh
they looked 15 deep. We played the number 1 Purdue in an exhibition game on October 24th, and outside of that, I couldn't tell you about anything else Kentucky-wise. So
Bless it. We're not even talking about football anymore.
the apathy has kicked in. It's not good for Kentucky and Stoops right now. So.
Oh, well, Kentucky is a basketball school, so
we're going to be very, very good. So I'm excited about that.
I imagine so.
All right, get us out of here.
I'm going to get us on out of here. We got to get going. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Big Friday Kickoff podcast. Always a pleasure. It's a blast. We're so excited for everything we have cooking up here in week 8. And we will see y'all on Thursday because we got 2 Thursday games.
Yep.
And then we'll be headed into Big Friday Kickoff and all the cool stuff we got going and then going into week 9.
That's
so
right.
Thank y'all so much for being here with us, and we will see y'all next week.